So having all this wonderful marketing experience and now applying it to the field of her interest over here, and she's now actually also involved in a US platform called virtuosity.online. I'm not sure if I was allowed to say that.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
yeah, for which I'm teaching, usually at 1 o'clock in the morning because of the US time zone over here. So we had this really wonderful connection of understanding how marketing works generally with a range of international products, but also now she's starting to apply that to a field of her interest and a field of my profession, music. So it's wonderful to have her here. Let me give a bit of an introduction to what this session will be about. Ms. Tan will begin by just discussing some ideas, general principles of marketing to us. I wonder if market segmentation will be there. That's just to mention that I'm a bit smart about some of these things too, only because I've been talking to her about this. But the students in my class were given an assignment about 2.5 weeks ago, and their job was to produce one of two things. Either they could produce a concert poster for a hypothetical concert, and Miss Tan gave certain guidelines about exactly what kind of concert this was going to be. Or they could produce either a website or their own Facebook page to advertise themselves, basically put themselves up on an online platform. And I gave them a bit of a survey of some of the famous musicians and how their pages were set up and how they actually, in a way, differed from some of their professional websites, which was actually quite interesting. So the Facebook profile could show one aspect of their artistry, and the website could be something else. And this is what we've been studying in class, and they've all of them have basically come up with some sort of platform which they will share with us today. Uh, and I think, with one exception, I think Kylie and Kyvie, two twins who play the violin, actually have come up with a joint platform themselves, which should be really interesting to see, I think, how that goes. So with that in mind, I'd like to say thank you once again to Ms. Tan for being here. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's so weird to be called Miss Tan. I'm so used. I'm having that moment of like, when people start calling you auntie and you're like, no lah, Che will do.
Especially coming from me, right? Since when have I
Yeah.
ever called you Miss Tan?
So that feels super weird. So hi everyone. I'm more accustomed to thinking of myself as Ying. You may think of me as Ying as well instead of Miss Tan. I think Andrew's done a great job. Thank you for introducing all the brands that I've worked with. And yeah, so one of the things that I love doing outside of my workplace is to help people, individuals who do need to market themselves or do need to market their own products or services, but really don't know where to start. And what I would like to do today is actually give you a few tools, maybe some questions you can ask yourself the next time you need to either create something to market yourself, your services, or perhaps in a more ideal situation, I guess, if there was a marketer who created something for you and he said, excuse me, I'm just going to read the name of the screen here. Excuse me, Ian, are you okay with this poster? You have the questions in your mind, your own checklist to see whether are you okay with it or not, and does it serve your purposes. So that's kind of that's what I would like to take you guys through today, and I'll be happy if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I think that'll be the best way to do this. And Andrew, if you should I say Dr. Filmer?
No, Andrew is good.
So Andrew, if you could feel free to interject at any point
Right.
with
So,
if you see a group of
right.
questions coming up.
Yeah,
The
don't
theme.
worry about trying to read the chat box. Let me take care of that,
Sure.
and I will curate those questions for you.
Fantastic. All right. So I actually called today's class Marketing for Mortals. So I will not go in a lot of depth around. Excuse me, I'm trying to share my screen. That's not working yet, but never mind. Let me continue first. Um, so I will not go into too much depth about segmentation that Andrew mentioned earlier, but what that actually is understanding your audience. So a lot of times, if you talk to someone who's marketing, let's say their concert or their video for the first time, and you ask them, okay, who do you hope will watch this? They'll be like, everyone lah, anyone who's interested lah, like as many people as possible lah. Like that's the first answer that you would come up with. But one important thing to ask yourself is who is most likely to be interested in um, what you've put out there. So it could be, for example, the most logical thing is my students, for example, right? So if you teach, let's say you teach in a uni, but you are putting out a concert and you think that it will benefit your students, you know that that's your primary audience, for example. If you're coming out to, let's say, teach music for the first time, and you know you are not interested in teaching beginners, for example. So you would immediately know that the most important people that I want to talk to are the ones who are, say, slightly more advanced, right? And you're not looking to try and teach beginners to the instrument, for example. So that's what it means by knowing your audience. So from there, I'm going to take you through an idea called the marketing mix. If you were to Google, marketing concepts and things like that, this would be one of the ones that comes out um, pretty often, and you'll see a lot of variations of it. So I'll take you through one of the most simplest forms, which is called the 4Ps. I'm not sure if you've heard of this before. Um, and I'll also talk you through how that might apply to something that you create or something that you review to market yourselves. And then at which point we'll apply that to the pages that you've prepared. So let me just share my screen.
So if you have any problem with that, you could just email that to me and I could share it from my side.
This is odd.
Oh, many things are odd. We live on odd, I think.
This is weird.
Do you have it open as a window?
Yes, I do, but I think it's to do with my privacy settings. I am so sorry about this. I'm just going to share this with you, Andrew.
Yes, sure.
It's going to be a... Are you able to...
Well, one way to do this is we might just skip ahead to maybe the first student presenting his or her page, and in the meantime, you could just email that to me.
So I've sent it to you on Google Docs if you're able to open that.
Let me just check this out.
So it's the same link that I sent to you previously as well.
Yes, I do have this.
All right, perfect.
Hang on a minute, please. Yes. Okay.
I'm so sorry about this.
Oh, hiccups always happen.
And look at you, the coolest, most tech-savvy one.
Well. Here we go. I think you can see that now.
All right, perfect.
Presents. Ta-da.
Perfect. So if we could just go to the next page. Yeah. So basically this, what I would like to sort of talk you guys through is the marketing mix. And one typical way that this is presented is in the 4Ps. So the 4Ps are basically product, price, place, and promotion. So I'm sure it's pretty obvious that this is typically meant for products, right? So the kind of things that I would typically work on. So like, what am I selling? I'm selling this bar of chocolate. At how much? Where am I going to sell it? Am I going to sell it at a hypermarket? Am I going to sell it at a kedai runcit? So on and so forth. And what's the promotion? What's going to make you buy? Am I going to sell it to you for, say, 2 for a certain price? Am I going to run some other kind of campaign? Am I going to ask you to enter some kind of contest? So on and so forth, right? So that's the most obvious way to interpret this. But what could this mean when it comes to marketing yourselves or your services? So let's say if we move on to product, what do you think? Maybe you guys can type into the chat box. What do you think is the product here? If you're talking about your own Facebook pages or your own concert posters, even. So this could be applied to anything that you produce. I'll give you like a second to maybe respond to that. You can also unmute yourself and respond if you like.
Hmm. And remember, there are a couple of pianists here, so you have no excuse for not using your keyboard. And Christine's giving me this like look of.
Hey, don't be so lame. I know we haven't met like face to face for a while, but this is like, just constant torture, okay?
Come on, keyboard skills.
Right.
Let me see those. Oh, there we go.
Sure, it could be the entertainment or education you provide. That's right. In a case where maybe you're producing something where you are trying to get hired, then maybe the product is, well, yourself and your skills as well. So if we were to move on to, for example, could you go to the next
Oh,
page,
sure,
please?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so who am I and what do I do? That would be if you're producing something where you're trying to get hired, for example. In the next thing, it will be
Well, these are sort of the questions I ask myself every day when I wake up. Who am I? What do I do? What do I do? Yeah.
And of course, the next thing is price. Now, this might not feel like the most intuitive thing for someone who is either starting out, or maybe you feel like the art itself is first and foremost. But one thing that you want to consider is if people don't know you, or they're not entirely sure whether or not they want to come. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes down to price. Can I afford this? And I would also expand that definition of what price is. Yeah. Please go to the next page. It might go even further than just how much in ringgit you're charging for your services or for your concerts, so on and so forth. But it could also be things like, are there any other hurdles? For example, do I have to sign up for something in order to be able to come for this concert, to join your class, so on and so forth, right? So next we go into place, which kind of ties into that as well. So where is your concert happening? How do you find me? So for example, if you go, okay, let's say this fantastic violinist, I put a great YouTube video, you watch it and you're like, oh my god, this guy's fantastic. And then there's no links to how to contact you. It would have been a beautiful piece to put out there, but ultimately it would not have brought back ROI, so to speak, right? There's no return on investment of creating that beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, we noticed when we were going through some of these professional sites with that some of the sites stated very clearly, here's the tour. This is where Anne-Sophie Mutter is right now, and here's where she'll be for the next year. At other times it was here's Ray Chen, and here's how you buy your CD. Immediately. So it's interesting to see that how some artists choose to focus on different product already, right? And that of course will make a difference if place is involved, if it's a live concert.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes I'll just gloss over the last one, which is the promotion, because a lot of times that will be, for an artist, that would actually be more like, why would you pick me, and what's going to be interesting about me versus, say, any other cellist out there, any other singer out there? What's going to be exciting about me versus anyone else?
Is this what they mean by unique selling point? Is that something else?
Yes and no. So this would be the things to consider to arrive at, for example, a unique selling point, because you could still say a unique selling point is price, is cheap. Your unique selling point could be convenient. My placement is everywhere. It's a Maybank ATM, it's everywhere. So you would have these considerations to ask yourself, what is ultimately your brand basically, and what is ultimately your unique selling point. So the way I would use these questions when you see things like, what's your marketing mix, what's the most important, think of these as levers, right? Some of these may be more important to you in different times, and and in other situations it might be totally different. So for example, bad example, I'm just starting out in a very competitive field, for example, and there's no way to differentiate. Let's say like I'm just entering data into Excel. There's 10 other people who are after this job to enter all your data into Excel for you. Can I maybe say the product is that I'm fast? That could be one, like I type faster than everyone else, but I could also play on price. I type at the same speed as everyone else. I can get this to you at the same speed, but I'll charge you half of what everyone else is charging. So it really depends on what your needs are at the time and what you're trying to achieve.
So it's interesting that the promotion section talks about what makes you interesting, but that isn't necessarily the unique selling point. You could be uninteresting but cheap, and that's still it's all right. I'm not suggesting that any of my students end up as uninteresting and cheap, by the way. But I'm saying it would be a unique selling point.
Well, think about it. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I, during the MCO, have been listening to a heap of podcasts. And you know what's that big promotion that I associate with the Great Courses Plus? Try us for 1 month free. So that becomes something that is a big part of their brand identity now, in my mind. But are you okay with that? So these are the levers that you want to pull as you sort of work on different projects. For example, you might want to seem like you are the best, most expensive, most exclusive teacher, for example, but you might be a prolific performer. So when you, let's say, create your concert posters versus your, teaching business card, for example, they might look very different, for example. Right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would love to do is, armed with these questions, so it's a bit of a checklist to ask yourself, right? And this is why I would love for you guys to present to me the pages that you've prepared and sort of let us know which is important to you, what's your goal, and we can also talk a little bit about who's your audience. We didn't go really very much into that into that in the introduction, because I think that differs very much for everyone else. So we can hear about your goals and who you wanna speak to, I guess.
Ying, you've actually received all these links in advance. Is there any particular one you'd like to start off with? If not, I'll just pick somebody quite randomly.
The one that stood out to me, I tried not to look too deeply into everyone's page because I wanted to, react to this and have a discussion with everyone without leading with my own thoughts already. But the one that stood out to me was someone actually had a website. So I'd be interested to see that and have that presented.
Right. Let me double check who that is actually. Or would the person, would the real Slim Shady please stand up, as they say? Who's the one
Grace.
who had is it Grace?
Yeah.
Okay, then Grace, please go ahead and introduce us to your website.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Andrew, is it possible for you to click on the link I sent to be shared?
I see. 1 minute, please. Which one is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, my cellist.portfolios.com.
I tried to be funny.
Well, here we go. Quite interesting. Here we go.
Okay, so tell us about your site, or tell us about you, I guess.
I'm currently a music performance major in the cello. I'm quite new to creating websites and pages, so I found this portfolio, Adobe portfolio, quite helpful. And I like the fact about it is that it has a welcome page. So for the public, I guess, if they're interested, they can click the click me button. If they're not, they can just exit the page. So this is my main goal is to not suffocate people with too many information on first glance. I want to keep it simple and something like that.
I'm happy to click you. Okay, that sounds very strange kind of language, but well, it's your language, so here we go. Instead of
Yes.
you have cello there. I'm sure Christine loves this.
Okay.
It started with the gallery where you can have a look at albums.
And we've got familiar faces here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And nextly, we have our, can feel free to click into anything, I guess.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's click this one. Oh, and then you go into the other sites from here.
Yeah.
And can you go
So
specifically?
I would say it's to show performance experiences on this site.
And it's quite a funny photo that you have here as well. And you may also like, I like this. It's such nice, polite language, you know. You may also like.
Let's have a
You
look at
may
your
not
about page.
also like as well. A compilation of the masterclasses we have attended in university.
Can we have a look at your about page and also your contact?
There are 2 points. You can click on the logo in the middle or the about as well.
Oh, so if I click the logo in the middle at the top of the page that says Grace, oh
Correct.
my cellist. It says Grace, oh my cellist. I like this. Then you actually.
I was contemplating between oh my cello or cellist. I'm not sure.
I see. So in other words, if I were under the gallery, for example, and if I click this top button over here, it would lead me to the about page. But if I go to the about page directly from here, it would work.
Correct. That would be my intention.
I have to say, you're almost convincing me to redo my own website now that it works. Because I built mine, you know, when the Triceratops was the special of the day, and it's all wood. I looked at it recently, and I'm not pleased with it. So this looks so much more streamlined than my own. It's fantastic stuff. Yeah. So this is the about page. Yeah.
And can we have a look finally at the contact page?
Contacts. Here we go.
Okay,
Ooh.
nice.
You missed one section here. There's a section where you should put your temperature.
A QR code.
QR code, yeah. Sri Lanka. Yeah.
My Sujata app.
My Sujata app. Yeah. And I also like over here that oh, you have I see. You can click on this and oh, you have actual media links. Fantastic.
Yeah, nice.
So, but I recall from the beginning that you actually had where's the, oh, you also have these ones where you can go directly to.
Yeah, on the home page as well.
Right, these 3 symbols. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much.
Very nicely done. So, a couple of questions for you. Who or what do you want to get out of having this website other than just, you know, completing the assignment? Like what did you think, maybe hypothetical or real, you can let me know. What do you think you were wanting to do with this website?
I apologize for the background noise you'll hear later.
No problem, no problem.
My main goal was to have some sort of an online journal or a diary, which is not too formal. That will be all.
Yeah, okay. So this is a great example, Grace, of you've done a very nice job of showcasing your personality, right? So who are you? You know what you're like. So you've obviously got a bit of a sense of humor. You are obviously from this blending page a cellist, and you know your link as well. So you very very much, you know, check that box of, you know, who are you? What are you all about? You know, and also your tone and manner what's unique about you, it's there, right? But for your purposes, because you were saying that okay, it's an online journal, I just want to show people what I do. Obviously, there's nothing to do with pricing here, and that's perfectly fine if that's your goal, right? And similarly with place as well. So when we're talking about how do I contact you or where is this going to happen, you've got all your links there, right? You've got all your social links. People are able to email you directly from the website. So yeah, nicely done. I would say it meets your goals. Perfect. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the fact that her outfit matches the color of the site. I don't know whether that makes a difference or not. But the cello.
It actually was determined by the image.
I see. So you use this, yeah, and
Yeah.
so there's a sort of because we did talk a little bit about this when we looked at people's websites, and some of them were very colorful. But I think Ray Chen's was specifically geared to certain kind of color schemes, and this worked out so nicely in that way. Yeah, the cello.
Yeah, well Rachel goes for that black turtleneck look.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about it is that I mean, I've always known Grace to be a very cheerful person, but there's more humor in this website than I'm used to hearing in classes. So there's a whole different side of her personality that's excited to come out, and perhaps that's a bit of a conscious decision as well. That sometimes you can choose to exhibit a different side of your personality online. I would assume.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it all goes back to, who are you trying to talk to and what are you hoping to get out of it, right? Like if you are trying to get hired, obviously it might be a little bit more serious, or even if you are trying to get hired and be differentiated for being, someone with a bit more of a humorous personality, then go for it. That's perfect. And you know your goals and you did it. Perfect. So let's have the next person.
Should I just pick someone, or do you have someone in mind?
No, go ahead. Let's do this at random.
Okay.
And if possible, could the person present their page, if possible?
Okay. All right. Ian, you're up.
So here's my page. I've done my Facebook page. So basically, this page, I want to establish myself as a pianist, which also plays the yangqing. So it's like tapping into two different market segments, which is Western classical and Chinese classical.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the cover photo is there. And I haven't posted any. I'm planning to post more videos like of what I do, what I play.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, because also I want to tap into a market segment, which is the yangqing market segment, because not many people are doing this currently.
Okay.
And so, so this is basically a layout of my page, but
Okay.
it may seem differently to like when you visit it, because this is I created this page, so there'll be other things here.
Of course, no worries. And I'd love to see what your about page looks like.
So about page, I tried to keep it simple as a pianist, and actually I'm not sure the term is yangqing performer or yangqingist, so I put it there, yangqing performer first.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I'd like to keep it short and not too long, so that people won't like get too bored on reading everything. Yeah.
Sure. Is there anything else there yet? Actually, here's a function. You can hit view as visitor right there next to your promote button. That should actually help you out. There you go.
Ah, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like desktop is weird. It's different with mobile. So yeah, okay, nice. So sorry, I interrupted my own train of thought. Did you have anything else there on photos, videos, so on and so forth?
Not yet, because I'm trying to like expand more of what I do.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And what's your so you were saying you were keen to showcase yourself as a performer, right? So it's not necessarily get people to come to a specific event, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
more like getting chances to like teach or coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then maybe performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the main idea.
Okay. So my comments, if I were to, so, or rather before I give my comments, what are your thoughts about, now that we've talked about things like, product, price, place, and promotion, and sort of phrasing that in your own way, right? Like, who am I? How much do I charge if I were to to be hired, so on and so forth. How do you think you've done for your goals? What do you think you would do next?
I think I would like promote it first because as for now there are no followers for this page. Then after that, I'll plan on like putting more performance videos of me like on the piano and also on my Yangqin. Yeah, that's the short-term goal for now. And the long-term goal is maybe to like get people to ask in like to have classes or to take classes and such.
Okay, nice. So, it sounds like you're very clear. It's very nice to hear when you have a this is what I want to do right now, but in the midterm, this is what I want to do, and in the long term, that's what I want to do. So as you go through that, you'll also evolve, what is on your page right now. If I were to comment on your goals right now, which is to showcase, yourself as a player, with fresh eyes, Andrew, Christine, feel free to pipe pipe in with your comments as well. As someone who doesn't know you, um, and I'm sorry, I'm showing my ignorance here. I don't know what a Yangqing is. Um, so it's interesting. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful picture. Your description, you were saying like I'm not sure. You were saying I'm not sure whether I should call it a Yangqingist or a Yangqing player performer. I would say go with whatever simpler, whatever people are more likely to understand. So you've selected the more straightforward option. I think that's fine. I saw a way to contact you, which is perfect for your goals at the moment, right? You just want people to see you're playing and be interested to get to know more about you. So I think that's perfectly fine.
So,
But in
so,
the future,
so
sorry,
I mean,
Habiran.
yeah, you might somebody might need to check in on my ignorance as well. So Yangqin is a dulcimer, right? It's
Yes, a hammered
yeah,
dulcimer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what the items are that you actually hold them on both hands and you move them across and it hits the same string or multiple strings and you have a lot of
Yeah,
repeated notes. So but that discussion already has shown us that okay, so for people who know what it is, when we see the image, we don't even need the words Yangqin performer because we will know who you are, right? But the problem is you didn't appeal to somebody who didn't know what the instrument was to begin with. So that maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe if you only want to appeal to people who are already familiar with the instrument, but you should know that therefore you are now not appealing to people who, who don't know what that is. So I'm not sure whether that's intentional or that you want a niche audience or if you want to have something broader, then you have to I suppose you have to explain or something or put a video that immediately shows what the instrument is.
Yeah, exactly. So and also for your future plans, you were talking about you want to promote it and have more people follow the page first. I would highly discourage you from doing that. I think the first thing, um, think about it again as a transaction, right? Your product, let's say this is a representation of you and you're the product, for example. You want to have your product there first before you start asking people, hey, come and buy into this idea or come and like this page. Um, uh, of course you have supportive people who want to like your pages, guys. That's there. But from building your brand perspective, you should really think about first and foremost having your product fully there, fully formed, right? If you are creating some videos of yourself, whether it's recordings from your performances or whether you are filming some specifically for your page, make sure you have that first. The last thing you want is people to come to your page and go, okay, I don't know what this is, don't know what this person is about. Got one nice picture there, right? But it's a good start. Perfectly perfectly fine.
So let
Can I
me.
just pipe in a little bit? Because Ian actually has a pretty interesting portfolio in that he is both a Western classical musician as well as an Eastern musician. So that's a really good point that makes you unique. So the question about what makes me unique, that is one of it. So you have to kind of think along the lines of what images. Because right now, for instance, what I can see from your portfolio, your profile picture is that you are playing a piano, and the representation of the Yangqing is not there. So it's like if you want to market yourself as both a Western and an Eastern musician, you have to be quite clever about that because it's definitely a selling point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. And I think one of the things that you can always decide for yourself, Ian, the benefit of having yourself as your own brand is you can decide for yourself which one's more important to me right now, right? So, for example, if you are spending, let's say, most of your time now on piano works, for example, you might want to be a little bit more piano forward and, you know, really lean into that if you want to, right? So you can decide for yourself which one's more important at any given time, or whether you want to, talk about, for example, blending these two types of, and what you've learned from these two types of music systems, so on and so forth.
Is it important for a profile picture to clearly see your face, or not? I guess
um
some people, I guess, have a logo if they prefer, right? So yeah. I
yeah,
suppose it also depends on what your other pictures or what catches your eye. So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's purely a design choice for you. And I think that goes into a slightly different topic of your tone, your manner, so on and so forth. So this one, today, what I've shared with the students is a little bit more functional. Like, it's really just, okay, what do I need to do? But
Mm.
I think most of you are pretty, just looking at the submissions from before, most of you have got that, how do I make something visually pleasing actually down quite well, So, yeah.
Interesting. By the way, when we went through some of the celebrities' websites and Facebook pages, only one had no, two had logos. And Anne Sophie Mutis apparently looks like Louis Vuitton or something like that because it's just her. It's quite funny. All right. Shall we move on
Yes.
to? And thank you very much, Ian, for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
Jared, you're next.
Okay, hello. So yeah, so this is my Facebook page. Didn't really have time to create a website, but okay. so yeah, so this is my Facebook page. So I did
Mm-hmm.
do a cover page, which is very music
Mm-hmm.
to relate to music. Then this is my page name, Young Tenor Jared, because that's who I am. I'm a young tenor, currently studying music in Central University, as well as a music performance vocal major.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty much it. So yeah, so this is my about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You put your phone number there. That's brave.
Well,
Is this an unlisted page? Is it private?
this is
I can link to it. So yeah.
he can look into it, so it's pretty much public.
Okay, cool. So what are you hoping to get out of this? Or was it purely just to check the box on an assignment?
I think it's just to check the box on an assignment so I can move on.
Okay.
At least that's honest.
Well, I mean, it's I please don't be offended by it, but it very clearly looks like something that checks the boxes, but doesn't really do much for you in the long term. If you want to keep, let's say, building on this page, as it is now, it's probably not going to do much for you. Someone comes to this page. I think it's been really, it's a good choice to, and a kind of brave choice to not just go call your page Jared Ngor, but instead you've put it as young tenor Jared. I think sometimes it's good in some cases to have a pretty obvious, very descriptive name. Um, so that's a plus, I think. Um, the other feedback that I would give you is for depending on your medium, so understand what you're communicating on. I'm not sure if sounding a bit old here, but I'm not sure if you guys actually use Facebook quite a lot in your in your own lives. Do you use Facebook much?
Um, I haven't gone around posting photos on Facebook.
But do you scroll? Do you consume content on Facebook?
I see the content on Facebook.
Right. So if you think about yourself, so another handy thing to think about yourself as you're going through the checklist, right? Of does this showcase who I am? Does this tell people how much it's gonna cost, where to find me, and whether or not it showcases what's unique about me. As you go through this, you want to be mindful of the medium that you're using. So if you were writing, let's say, a long form article about myself, the young tenor Jared, right? You could write long, long things that go off the page. Because right now, as we're looking at this, if you could scroll down to, yes, this one, the moment you hit see more, you're gonna have a certain level of commitment to wanting to know the rest of the story to hit that see more. Might seem like a very small, might seem like a very small thing, but so it's either you are writing something that's super interesting and people want to read more about it, or maybe you want to consider the medium and adjust the things that the way you present the things you say accordingly for the medium, if that makes sense.
Ooh,
Yeah. Okay.
It's also interesting, I think, that when we went through some of the Facebook sites of some of the celebrities, the part which you see here, which is send message, was different from page to page. One of them actually said shop now. So you can
Oh
go.
yeah, definitely. So if you've got like a twosetapparel.com or something like that, why would you want to have a send message? You'd be like shop now and just go
Yeah.
straight and get their merch. So it really it I'm trying not to sound like I'm copying out by saying, it really depends on what you're after, but it kind of is. So that's why a broad framework like, does this check the boxes of what I'm trying to do will help you find some order in all of that chaos.
And I suppose when you see a site, you should know exactly what this person is going after.
Exactly.
And if you're not sure, then that means that message is not being conveyed particularly clearly already.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you're going to be, let's put it this way, if you're going to be unclear about something, you're going to be unclear on purpose.
Why would you be unclear on purpose?
Well, if let's say I've been a violist for more than 10 years, I'm not going to be clear about the fact that I haven't been playing for most of the past 6 years.
Fair enough. We're going to try something rather different now, and we're going to, and thank you very much, Jared. We're going to move to a poster assignment. I think there's only one person I'm aware of actually did the poster assignment, and this would be Timmy. Now, there's something you got to know about Timmy is that in our class, at one point, we made up this story about what it would be like to go back in time to talk to Bach, and imagine this conversation. And for some reason, we came up with the idea of Timmy's Time Machine, TM, registered trademark. And it even came out in some of the assessments that actually you have obtained, use of Timmy's Time Machine, TM. And so it's been a running theme over here. Today he doesn't just have a Timmy's Time Machine, but he's now got Timmy's Imaginary Philharmonic Orchestra. And Timmy, I'm going to leave it in your very capable hands.
Nice.
Right. Hello.
Hello.
Thing real quick. There you go. Yep. So I wanted to keep the poster in a stereotypical fashion enticing for children with colors, imagery, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I like to give it layers. Like it's not your typical how should I put this? Like, oh, you're just listening to music type of thing. I like to sneak in information some way somehow. Like you get something out of things. That's the basic idea.
Yeah. And so in this hypothetical concert of yours, um, it says all proceeds go to, which is great. How much do I have to pay to get in?
Right, as you were speaking on the points, I realized, I forgot that. The con.
Yeah, so just to give you guys a little bit of context, I know you guys will be great at all the creative work, and I really liked this one. So this was one of the ones that I actually opened before the class. This gave me a really good chuckle. I loved it. So that would have been my only one question, which would have been, how much? You checked all the other boxes, right? We know what this is. It's gonna be a concert. We know that it's gonna be film music. We know that where it's gonna be, when it's gonna be, and you've also added this, as you described, right? You were saying you like to have like the Easter egg kind of feel to it, and it's done that with all the very different references to all these different films. So it's checked all the other boxes for me, except for I don't know how much I got to pay for this. This is like 1,000 ringgit donation or something.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, very very nicely done. I thought this was fantastic.
This one interested me a bit because my first degree is in journalism, and we didn't look at website advertising, right? But we certainly looked at poster design. And so I'm curious as to whether the bottom section there with the swirly piano and notes, is that really necessary? Because the poster looks busy to me. There's a lot on it. And we're missing the element of white space, unless you consider the red background over here. I'm not sure that's completely. What do you think? If would it be good advice for me to see what happens if you take that out? But maybe that white space is not in a strategic place either, because then it leaves a hole at the bottom, which it's not the best place necessarily to open up some space. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you're actually touching on a very interesting idea that happens when two marketers actually. So typically what we'll do is, if you watch any show that the hero is like somebody who works in advertising, they'll be like, I got this monster client, everything also they say wrong, I've made like 20 revisions to this thing, my client is horrible. And sometimes it will come, or actually a lot of the time it will come to this, I want one version that doesn't have this swirl, another version maybe we keep it all to cartoons, no Indiana Jones, yeah. And then you get into like a million iterations for that. So my answer to you is it's subjective. And the choice to do it goes back to your objectives, right? I personally think that it's good because the rest of the images that you've put on there, none of them really hint to music. Even the Fantasia screen grab that you have there isn't one that inherently screams music, whereas this one thing that you put there sort of reminds me that, oh yeah, it's an orchestra thing. So I would say it could go either way. You're right also in the feedback that it's so busy, right? It's a very, very busy design. So, but sometimes, well, think about brands that have done busy looking designs very successfully, right? If you think about anything that's like street fashion, where they've got like very loud patterns, loud colors all over the place. They're still appealing in their own way. So yeah, I would say it really depends. So be careful thinking about, go back to the checklist of, what this is, who are the kind of people that are going to be, that's going to appeal to, which goes back to your promotion. And yeah, use that checklist.
I didn't even think about the fact that there were two different types of images here, of comics or cartoons. Animated films versus the more serious action, real life people sort of thing. Does it make any difference? Is it a good thing that it's we see one animated one followed by Harrison Ford, followed by an animated one, or is it good to like put all of the animated stuff on one side and all the serious stuff on the other side? How does it go? Is that also subjective, or is there a logic to it?
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely subjective. People like you, or you meaning all of you in this class, are the ones who sort of lead the way in creative work, so to speak, right? So break the rules. Go ahead and break the rules as long as you know what the rules are. Is my advice when it comes to things like that.
Could you come up with actually like different posters for different? Is that misleading? Let's say I have a poster with all of the animated stuff, and I put it in a place where I think younger people might see the poster, and then I put the Star Wars and John Williams stuff only on a poster, and I put that somewhere else where people go in. Is that misleading that people might come in only thinking that there was John Williams in this, and other people would think it's all about cartoon music?
Well, what you're describing is something that happens to all of us every day. So if you turn on, say, if you go on the internet and you don't have ad blocker on, for example, if you get a Lazada ad, let's say, your ad is gonna show something very different from mine because we probably fall into very different target markets, and therefore you create something for different audiences. So that's something that happens to all of us every day. We experience the internet very, very differently from one another, and whether or not it's misleading really just goes back to the context of it. Are you just putting up this poster without any statement that says the sound of these films and more, right? Or whether it's on your website and you show all cartoons and there's no mention there that there's going to be what the repertoire is, for example. If they were to click through to your website, they click through to your Facebook page, you don't have a list of the repertoire, for example. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Let's move on to a collaborative work, right? And this would be Kylie and Kyvie with your joint Facebook page. If you would lead the way with this.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so our Facebook page is like to show that we are performers and that we are more focused on going to the violin duet, like more focused towards violin duet works instead of solo ones.
Okay.
I also think it's a platform for us to be circulated as a name, to be invited for performance together.
Okay.
And that this page is like to post about our future engagements and our music videos. Yeah, basically that.
Okay. Can we take a tour of the page? Okay.
And you even have a reviews section.
I didn't do that. It's already there.
Okay.
Okay. And how long have you had this page? Like, did you just set it up for the assignment?
Yeah, we created this page after the assignment starts.
Okay, cool. And is this something that you want to keep going on after this, or purely for the assignment?
Yeah, we would like to keep this page there.
Okay, nice. So, so you were saying that your goal is to showcase that it's both of you together, and that you are hoping to get people who would want to collaborate with you or hire you. Was that what it was?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool. Could you scroll down a little bit? Perfect. Can we have a look at like the photos maybe? Or is that just the two things that we saw on the timeline?
Yeah, just the two.
Okay, cool.
As
Nice.
someone with a sibling myself, I wonder whether it took any debate to decide which twin got first billing.
Did you guys pick alphabetically, like whose name gets to go first?
Yes, because I'm the elder one, and also L comes before V. And usually other people call us that way, so I think that is the easier way to call.
Sure. I think
that's... And how much older are you, actually?
1 minute difference.
It literally shows that every minute counts.
Okay, nice. So my question for you is, I'm sorry, I really don't mean for this question to sound very offensive, but how long ago was this picture taken?
You mean the profile one or the cover photo?
Both.
The profile, it's taken during 2017, and the cover photo, it's like literally very long ago. I also don't remember.
Okay, so as a person who might hire you for, I don't know, my party, and I want a string quartet, and you guys will solve half of that problem already, I'm afraid to hire you because I don't think I might be infringing on some child labor laws there.
It's because we didn't have any new.
No. Yeah, don't worry about it. Like I hope you don't take that in in an offensive manner. It's just just going back to, what's your objective, right? You want to get hired, you want to get people to, maybe contact you about the potential for gigs. So just make sure that it represents who you are now. Like a picture like this, it's a beautiful picture. It really does sort of showcase, the fact that you've been doing this for a while. But for somebody who doesn't know you, they might look at this and go, are these two, are these two child prodigies who are now still children? You know what I mean? So it would really affect the kind of jobs that might come your way. It might affect, whether or not someone decides to approach you for a job or not. And it's okay that you don't have the right pictures right now for a class assignment, but that's just comments for, as you keep it going and as you grow your brand that way. I hope that's helpful for you. In terms of the videos, could we scroll down? So I think this is fantastic. You've done a really smart thing by sharing the videos from, other bigger names. I think that's a really smart move. I think it really does jumpstart your credibility already. It's like, okay, this other bigger organization, we've worked with this other bigger organization already. So I think that's really good stuff. And I think for the rest of the class as well, if you have things like this, shout it loud and proud. I think that already jumpstarts your credibility.
Yeah, and I noticed if you can scroll down slightly more, that the green sleeves one, I don't know whether that's something that you produced or it was produced by somebody else. You've started already choosing certain types of fonts, and it's almost like a branding style, if I might venture, and that may be something you want to continue doing if you decided that that's the way that you want your brand portrayed, right? This might be part of that branding process.
Oh yes, definitely. And it might not be something that you need to focus on right now, but definitely once you do decide to do that, try to be as consistent as you can, at least for an amount of time. So if you've decided, this is what my logo is going to be like, you don't want to be changing your logo like, I don't know, every week. And people will, not be able to recognize you. But yeah, I think it's a good effort.
Okay, I understand.
Right, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Let's move over to, I'm looking at the ones that have been sent to me in advance, but I think I might miss one or two. But I believe we have Angeline. And Angeline, I know you've had issues with your internet. If you want me to share your Facebook page from my side, I can do that for you.
Okay.
I'm
Can you all
conscious.
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Andrew, I'm conscious that we're running a little bit long. I've got all day, but are we okay to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay.
So I share my screen now.
Sure, if you can.
Okay. Okay. So here's my Facebook page. Can you all see it clearly?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So the name that I put is Angeline Mezzo Soprano to show that I am a mezzo soprano.
Mind hitting view as visitor, please?
Sure, no problem.
Fantastic.
So for the button over here, instead of putting the message, I put watch video. So it will lead to one of the video on my YouTube channel. Yeah. It is a cover song. And then here's the about. And then for the website, I actually put my YouTube channel.
How long have you had this page?
Oh,
sorry, the answer staring at me. I'm sorry. That was a dumb question.
A few days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, nice. So what do you hope to get out of this page if you are planning to carry on with this after the class?
Because I actually mentioned over here that I am at the same time a part-time music educator. So I will use this page to promote maybe online classes or to promote face-to-face private classes through this page. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can use the boost button so that the whole Malaysia can actually recognize that there's a mezzo soprano in KL.
Sorry, what boost was that? Did you mean the boost post button?
Yeah, I think I cannot show you here.
Yeah, you'll have to go back to your exit view as. If you go back to the top of the page, you have to exit view as.
Over here. Can press the boost post. You can see that previously I actually previously I actually pressed the boost one, and I can actually reach this amount of people. So that is what I would want to do in future.
Okay, and how much money do you spend on that?
Only 30 ringgit.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, so how do you think you're going? Are you happy with the page? What else would you want to do with it?
I think I can improve more.
But what is it that you want to improve? I'm asking you these questions because interestingly, you seem to be the one who's gone the furthest with their page and invested actual money into this already. So I'm curious to see what where your thinking's at already, and what you want to do with it later on.
Maybe I can create a an actual website on it. So instead of putting my YouTube channel, I can put a website.
And what's your YouTube channel like? Is that where most of your stuff has lived before this?
Oh, yeah.
Are you very active on YouTube?
Not that active, but then maybe one video per month.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Okay. So the way I would see this is I think I'm quite impressed with your page. I think it very clearly shows. At first glance, I know that you are a singer, which is great. You were saying that your future goals are that you would like to be approached for teaching roles, right? You do want to teach and you want people to inquire about learning with you. Is that right?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
So I would say the only feedback that I would give is that that's not the first thing that jumps out to me when I look at this page. So it may not be your primary focus at the moment. If you know what you want to do is show people what you can do, that's perfectly
Mhm.
fine. And I think it's really nice that you do have a YouTube channel and you're making full use of it. So don't worry too much about changing it to asking people to sign up for something now if you don't already have some kind of program or some kind of class that you want people to sign up for. So that can evolve over time. I think you're doing a very good job at it. But if you do want to make teaching a focus, you might want to be a little bit clearer about the educational aspect of it. You may want to think about, say, what kind of content you put as well. Whether it's a class or maybe a more how-to type piece of content because you're already a content creator, and say, I go into more detail about this kind of stuff in my classes. You can message me to learn more about class, or you can even straight up say, if you want to take this class that I've put together, it's this amount of money. So yeah, those could be potential next steps for you. But
I like the fact that she chose a handle, that Angeline mezzo-soprano, and I'm actually really impressed that no one else had that handle. So well done with that.
Yeah.
The next Angeline who's a mezzo-soprano can't use that. They have to do like Angeline mezzo-soprano _1.
Yeah, so nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's. I've run out of links myself. Who else have we? Do we have anyone else? Oh yes, Yunchuan. Sorry, you sent yours separately, so I sent that by email. So could you go ahead? Is it the last one for today? I believe so.
Yeah, I guess.
And Ming, I just let you know, if we have a couple of minutes, I have my own page which you helped me put together. So
okay,
we might have a look at that. So Yunchuan, go ahead.
Can you see my page?
Yes.
It's
I think it's
loading
loading though.
Slowly. My laptop been having a heating up problem, so everything is lagging.
I could do it on my side if you prefer.
Is it okay?
Let me just retrieve the link for a minute.
I think this is coming in. We can work with this. Like, it's loading. It's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Continue.
If everyone else is okay.
So I just open up this page for the assignment. But I have been sharing sometimes about my music experiences in my personal Facebook page. So the information here is actually taken up from my usual page.
Sure.
So
let's have a look.
because I've just done everything like past few days, so it will look a bit messy.
No, that's all right. Let's have a look.
Okay. So where should I start? Okay, so
let's have a look at the posts. How's that?
Sorry?
Let's have a look at the posts.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have made a few different photo albums with different music experience and as well as videos. And this was my past experience with the orchestras or strings ensemble. And also sometimes I play with bands as well. So that's how I segregate my albums.
Okay.
But on my main post, usually I'm sharing about some of the interesting stories when I teach. And yeah.
Okay. And these are your students as well, is it?
Yes, correct. And like this is the newest video that she shared. So she over the Raya period.
Okay, sure.
And these are sisters. They are also learning for a while, just a few months, and yeah.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm trying to show here is that yes, I played the violin and the piano, but it's not the only thing that I will teach about. As I would like to approach music as a more what do you say, a package lah. Like you can actually connect to your other parts of life or other activities you do. Like for example, this one is a girl that learns the harmonium, and we learn together how to play different music on it. Yeah, and this is another boy who's learning the Indian classical, which usually they don't have the formal education type, and we are trying to explore how learning the Western music can complement his learning in the classical Indian and vice versa. So yeah, I guess that's my main goals here lah.
Okay, and so you were saying that you are sort of trying to build your credibility as a teacher, right? And
yes, so
you wanna showcase your teaching. That's cool. And what's up with the about page? Was that something you wanted to take us through earlier?
Sorry?
Was the about page something you wanted to take us through earlier?
Well, I'm supposed to write some stories here, but no idea what to write yet.
Okay. That's an interesting problem. We'll talk about that shortly.
And that's my main about info over here.
Okay. Cool. So my immediate response is, whoa, you do a lot of stuff. So I'd say that, that's pretty good. And of course, first impressions count. The first thing I saw was your cover photo and your profile picture, obviously. So I immediately know what you do. You're a violinist. So that's a plus. Anytime you want to communicate to people that you don't know, it's always helpful to have a cover photo or a profile picture that immediately tells people what you're about. So I think that's really good. In terms of your content,
but there is one. I think her profile picture actually has her playing the piano, but it's not that obvious.
Yeah, the main one.
Yeah, and it's subtle. It's nice. I think it's nice because it's not so overpowering that I'm kind of like, wait, what? Why is that? Like, I'm not like brain freezing there and kind of going, why is there a violin and there's a piano? And it's subtle enough, but yet if you actually pay attention, you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. So I think that's nicely done. I think the fact that you have this whole all of these pictures also kind of show off a little bit your experience as well as your personality, right? Like you obviously look like someone who I immediately assume that you work well with others. You perform, you work well with ensembles. So that's a nice selection. And if that's what you're going for, perfect, right? In terms of lessons, what I would sort of ask you to be a little bit mindful of is in terms of video production. So I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name already, but the person who had the YouTube channel. So you guys could always exchange ideas, for example, right? If she's really used to video production, you could get some help. But my advice to you is be cautious about having too many different forms of too many different formats basically for your content. So this customized lesson plans available. This is interesting to me. This shows me that you actually already have a product that you're trying to sell in some way or other, whether you're giving it away free or not. Are you giving it away free?
No.
Okay, so back to the checklist, right? If you're trying to make money out of this, you might want to tell people how much it's gonna cost them and how they should pay you, I guess, to a certain extent.
I kind of put it like here, for example.
Oh.
Okay, that's good. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this a bit blind, sorry.
Just a mock-up.
Sure. So I think this is really nicely done. Is this something that you've actually launched, or this is just a hypothetical thing for now?
Well, I have been teaching part-time, but this is what I have in mind, but for full-time, what would I like it to be in the future?
Sure, it's fantastic that you've gone and done this. Even just the thinking behind it, even if you're not happy with how it looks right now, right? But you know, the fact that you've gone and thought through all of this, that's fantastic.
A bit of extra information here. Yun Chuan already has a degree in engineering, so that's where a lot of her ability to convey this information has come from her work in a different arena. So I think she, yourself, myself, we all have music and something else.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so I think it's cool that you've already done this. But just be cautious of, you know, how things look on your page overall. So the big picture. So this, as a set, looks great. You're burying the lead a little bit there with the pricing, because on social media, back to what the feedback I gave to someone else earlier, people are not going to click through like 5 pages just to find the pricing. You might want to just go, hey, I've got customized plans. They range from this much to this much. I'm available anytime. Hit the message button or comment here or something, or DM me for more details or something like that, right? Whichever tone makes sense for you, but you don't want to bury the lead about how much it's going to cost and what it actually is. So another thing that people tend to forget is that they'll give their programs very fancy names. Not you, of course. Yours is fine, but like just a general comment is that a lot of times when people create a product or service or something, they'll give it a super fancy name, and by the time they've come out with this chunky name, I don't get anymore what it is. It's no longer called a private one-to-one violin lesson. You know what I mean? So just be cautious of that. As you go down to the rest of your content, like this is cool. This looks really nice. But I would go down to the ones about your students. So they take a very abrupt, this one. So everything was really polished, really nicely done. And this took like an abrupt change in like production quality, the tone of, you know, what you're writing there. So you might want to make sure that if you're trying to be performer plus teacher, you might want to make sure that even though you're targeting different people, you don't, when they come to where all your stuff is housed, you're not suddenly like 2 personalities in one page, right? So you might want to consider that and figure out how you want to have some consistency in the styling of your content. And that's where I would say sometimes you can't do everything yourself. So do get help if this is a route that you want to keep going down. Do get someone to help you develop that. Sometimes it can come in the form of templates that someone can create for you, and then you can, you know, slot it in as necessary. It could be that. So yeah.
We found with Ray Chen's website that he had his more informal stuff completely on like a separate website, so that he could demarcate it from his very polished main website page, which was unusual to have a separate site. But he really wanted to demarcate. He wanted to be really informal, but he also wanted to be really formal. And so he had like 2 different sections over here.
Yeah.
Can I add, if Yunchuan, can you go to the top of the page? The organization of your profile picture and your profile, your cover photo, or it's actually cover video actually, if, or something, right? It's very good for journalists, because we get concerned about which way the gaze is going. So your picture is looking downwards, which is where you want people to scroll to. So people tend to follow the eye, right? So you notice a lot. We get told when we go to journalism school that if you look at some pictures, you find that some people who are actually right-handed become left-handed, and it's just to flip the picture around so that the people are looking in the right direction to get the reader to move their eye to the next page instead of away from outside the newspaper when you close the newspaper and you put it away. So I actually like the way that the picture is working with this. And the fact that, I mean, we see your face once clearly, there's a focus on that. And the other image is to show that you play an instrument and not, so it focuses on what you do. So that from a journalistic point of view, that's what we have. So I like that.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, thank you. Was that the last submission for today?
I believe so, except for mine, I guess.
Okay. While you pull that up, I'll just sort of summarize for
Yeah.
everyone the comments that I have overall. Having gone through, you know, your goals and what your pages look like, I think all of you, for the most part, you obviously know what your brand's about because it's yourself. So work with that. Don't be afraid to be honest with yourself about what your goals are, and don't be afraid to prioritize. You heard today a lot of feedback around, you know, for example, making your posts all look similar, or, you know, writing shorter captions and things like that. But don't be afraid to prioritize. So as we go back to that checklist, right, of, you know, what your product is, how much, what your pricing is, where this is going to take place, and also what promotion is going on, just don't be afraid to prioritize which one of these things is more important to you right now. If you're immediately saying, I want to get students, maybe pricing is the most important thing, because people need to know and place which is how to get in touch with you, because that's the most important thing right now. But for most of you, if you are just looking to showcase what you do, then, you know, focus on that product bit, right? Focus on creating content that really does showcase that, and try not to jump the gun in just trying to get every man, woman, and dog to like your page, right? Focus on building your content is my personal advice. But yeah.
Christine, do you have any questions, or would your students have any questions regarding this?
CMAT people, do you have questions before I ask mine? Question. You got Facebook page. You got Facebook or not? Please have Facebook. Website? Anyone? Someone?
The world doesn't run on TikTok.
Or any other, even if you're super prolific on TikTok, you can always tell us about it.
I'm sure TikTok will be a very interesting kind of marketing tool, actually. Could
Can
be,
I
yeah.
ask a question for Ying?
Sure.
What's the most popular social media platform nowadays?
Depends. So unfortunately, I can't. The answer is always going to be depends. So if you're talking about selling a service, if you're talking about the kind of stuff that you guys do, a lot of it still is Facebook, because it's also the format of the thing, right? It doesn't disappear after 24 hours. It's almost everybody has an account, therefore they'll be able to see it. So yeah, that's a good starting point.
But I understand the younger generation is not really in Facebook anymore.
No, they're not. So depends. If you want the younger generation, so to speak, to be the ones who's coming to you, you might need to explore other platforms. So for example, that's why I said, right, like if you want to be super prolific on TikTok, go for it. But if that works for what you're selling, if you're selling lessons, it might not be the best place. So if you want to circumvent everything, the easiest way is to have your own website. So regardless of what social media you use, you can still tell people, you can still ultimately find out everything about my lessons, my work, my everything on my own website. That's kind of how things are going these days. But yeah.
Yeah, I felt that Yun Chuan's was held back by the limitations of Facebook. To be honest, it was fine that she had a lot of stuff that was different about teaching, and some of that stuff is organically not as videographed, as well as a performance will be. I mean, that's the nature of it, right? So on a website, I think she could put it in a different tab so that it's demarcated, so it doesn't kind of contrast too much with the flow of things. But that's I thought that a website would work quite well for Yunchuan.
Yeah, and I personally don't use these very much, but you could try even things like Medium, where it's a long form thing. It's not really you having your own website, but it's almost like a social article sharing sort of thing. So you don't actually have to invest the time and all that into building a website, but you can just focus on writing those articles. For example, if you think that it's long form is what you need. Sorry for those of you who don't do journalism or advertising. Long form would be the things you look at on social media and go too long they read. Okay, so if that's kind of your thing, you can try something like Medium. You can try something like LinkedIn, even for even older people mostly. But you can also try that because that's what they're trying to.
What? How is it spelled?
Medium and LinkedIn. So Medium is one place. Yeah, Medium. Like small, medium, large, medium.
Oh, okay.
And the other one is LinkedIn.
I thought Medium like Bomo.
That too.
Right, Christine.
I was just had a question that is more because some of our students, what they do is they do music production work. So they might, what they are, and a lot of them now, quite a handful of them now are transitioning um, graduate, they're going to finish their studies and then they're going to go into the working world. And it's actually quite intimidating, partly because just like music performance students, the market is the market is competitive, and it's very hard to stand out, in that kind of environment. If you're trying to be competitive, you want to put yourself out there, but you also know at the same time you are quite a fresh grad. What would be your advice actually on how to not just market yourself, but how do you kind of stand out in an environment, especially like now, where how we are going to be working or how we are going to be marketing ourselves and selling our products is going to change dramatically because of what is currently happening with COVID-19.
That's actually a really interesting question. I don't think I have all the answers, but possibly just some thoughts around it that feel free to add on. I think you would have some insights to their situation in particular. But if I were to think about it from the perspective of, if you work in a field where you constantly have creative output, I think it's always helpful to put yourself out there and show what you have to offer. So if it's the sort of thing where you are, let's say, producing tracks for fun, right? It's always helpful to be able to show that, hey, this is the kind of things I do. This is the software I've been using, so on and so forth. That kind of inherently also already shows people that you are competent in this kind of software, this kind of tools, so on and so forth, and you have ideas as well. So I think that's really handy to put yourself out there. I think the other thing to do also is to demonstrate, especially when you're a fresh grad, is to demonstrate that you're open to learning. In a classical music context, this probably looks like, when you're showing off your masterclass videos and photos where you're like, oh, I'm taking a lesson from so and so and things like that. In music production, that might look slightly different, but it might even look like, for example, in some cases, it could be curating ideas. So, for example, I saw this video of, this person who made this kind of edits, for example. This is a really difficult technique, you know, guys, like for those of you who don't do music production, this is why it's interesting. So you're sort of curating it, you're commentating on it, but that's another way to put yourself out there if you're not, you know, actually producing a video of yourself, so to speak.
How has, just wondering, how has branding and all this marketing changed, I mean, in your line of work, now that, you know, we're in COVID-19 season, and, you know, that the uncertainty of, you know, putting stuff out there. I'm just kind of curious because I would imagine that it's changed quite a fair bit how you do your work and how you market things now as well.
So for my specific category at this moment, it's shifted from being a category that people didn't really care about. It was kind of like, okay lah, I clean, then it's fine. If it gets the job done, it's fine. So what this situation has created for a category like mine, where it's about cleaning and disinfecting, is information suddenly became very important, because you started to have a lot of disinformation about things like you know, how to use bleach to clean your home. Is it safe for this and that surfaces? So it became a very not so sexy, but it's so important to let people, you know, have access to the facts, basically. So sometimes you will cycle, and that's an example of cycling through. Just before COVID, you know, we were doing really nice, fun things. Like I launched a fragrance product. It's called Sentiva. So we were talking all about fragrance. We were getting influencers who typically do like perfumes and stuff like that to talk about the product. So it's an example of how situations, you react to them and you give people what they need at the time. Before that, people might have needed entertainment. Now they needed useful information. So for your categories, the best thing you can do is listen to your audience as well. So if, for example, at the beginning of COVID, of all the lockdowns worldwide, you saw a lot of musicians come out and say, I'm gonna go live at 6 p.m. every day. Yo-Yo Ma's gonna play you a song every evening, and things like that, because they felt that that was what their audience needed at the time. So this will not necessarily stay true 3 months from now. So keep listening to what your audience is doing, what you feel people are lacking at this point in time, and then sort of see what your skill set can do to fill those gaps, is my advice.
I've actually seen quite a few of the some of the CMAT students, and I see what they post online. I think it's quite interesting, their approaches to how they use social media, the CMAT students, right? So some of them who are in a band, they're very careful that they actually coordinate their announcements together, you know, and they plan in advance. They don't just suddenly release the new EP or whatever it is. They all go and say, this is coming out in 7 days time, and then here's a sneak preview, and here's the cover art, and they sort of have a media campaign leading up to this moment when it actually gets released. So I find that quite interesting. Some of the people who are not thinking about putting on their brand, they just put a video of their computer as they're going through something, and they see the process, so you can see their skill with this. I think what's missing with a lot of that is, I would love to see a before and after. You know, like, this is how we started off with the track, you know, the next Instagram post would be, and this is how it sounded at the end. Sometimes they're a bit too self-conscious. They only want to show the final product. But what would be interesting for me is to actually hear the progression of the product from beginning to end. And that's I think people have to get away from their ego of worrying about showing the early product, because it's a wonderful thing to see how well it's progressed from when you first started with a track to how beautiful it sounds at the end. So if the kind of product that I would show, if I were in that industry, would be how I managed to make one thing sound from this to this. I guess that would be my bit of my 2 cents to this. Can we take maybe just 1 minute to have you be as critical as possible, because with my own Facebook page, which you helped me design, right? And it was actually for the old Facebook, so now it looks different on the new Facebook, which is quite interesting, right?
Okay.
So here we go, right? So this is the page that you helped me design. we have multiple cover photos, right? So, and because we discussed this. I mean, what do you want to be? I think that's what you were asking me. That's the focus. And I didn't have focus. I said, I want to do a lot of things. And so that's why we pick a handle that wasn't Andrew Filmer Violist or Andrew Filmer Academic or whatever it is. And we have a series of cover photos over here that move from one to another. Now you look at the fact that there's text on the side over here of all of these photos, and what's interesting about that is that we measured each of the photos so that on the mobile app, just the picture would show up, but on the desktop, the text would come out, right? And I know that I've just been posting things, but I know that sometimes when I write long messages, you actually write back saying that, nobody's going to read that. So keep it down to 2 sentences, please. So what else can we do with this? I think I made a mistake earlier on, and I thought it was just with the new Facebook, but I have a picture over here that's too small. That may be interesting, but you have to click on it to actually see it. And so I think that's perhaps a downside of this. It is still very wordy. I feel that not everybody will read through this as much as a website where you could put just a one-line motto in bold or in a different font or something like that. Any other deliciously critical comments that you could tell me about this site?
Well, I actually kind of disagree with you on some of the points that you've already made. So if I were to look at it item by item, I would personally say by this point you might want to think about refreshing some of your cover photos.
Sure.
Just because the size and everything has changed a little bit.
Oh, so my size has changed, has it?
so the format, and sometimes this is the big headache for a lot of people, especially if you're managing your own marketing yourself. You're both trying to hone your craft as an artist in your own right, and then trying to figure out all of this at the same time. Yeah. It can be very taxing, but you do what you do what you can. And once in a while you might want to, let's say, review your page every 6 months, every year, whatever works for you, and kind of refresh it based on what the medium actually looks like now. Yeah. So that would be,
because this is how it was like when we created it, and you can see that the words are much easier to read.
Yeah,
but once you actually go to the new Facebook, you notice that it's not.
And the buttons are there blocking it, so on and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that I would immediately say that's what you wanna do. In terms of your about, actually, I think that's the sort of thing you wanna do, and that's where you can be this long, because you immediately hit hard with, I'm a prize-winning educator, guys, and I'm a violist, and so you immediately, even though it's wordy, but you're getting straight to the point. Like, these things actually do take words. Don't be afraid to use words, guys, but don't use them for no reason. Don't have more words than you need to. Is my advice. Which brings us to Bachfest. So we've had conversations with David Chin himself, I think, about Bachfest stuff. And my feedback when it comes to content and being worried about being too wordy is, for example, this Bachfest one. If you know Andrew, for example, your audience is, I would say, like 90% primarily using English. What you might want to ask for in the future is a version of this image that doesn't have the Chinese translation. Right. So it's a much cleaner image. Your audience can tell immediately what it is, and you don't have to work so hard with the happening tonight at 9 p.m. blah blah blah, because it's already there in the image. Yeah. Right?
And I put down Andrew Filmer, still a banana.
So it's things like that where you could always ask for it. Whoever you're collaborating with might not be able to, because for their own reasons, for example, their audience is 50-50, it works for them, whatever, maybe. But you could always ask for these sorts of things. Say, my audience, they're not going to come if they don't understand what this is. Can I have a version of this, right? That's one thing you could do.
Is this too much of a sudden shift where suddenly we move into cartoons?
um, yes and no. So I think it really depends on uh, how this looked at the time. This, on the day it came out, I remember it caught my attention because it was so different from what you normally have.
Mm.
And a lot of times, because you're collaborating with others, it makes sense for that collaboration. So do have a, how shall I say, do have an identity of what is stuff that you create yourself versus the stuff that you're just sharing is my recommendation. That's not easy to do. That's the sort of thing that doesn't happen overnight, because it comes with, if you're posting once a week, it's gonna take you, let's look at Instagram. Instagram's the easier way to look at this. If you post once a week, it's gonna take you 3 weeks to get that tile to look like you've got three in a row that look the same in a style. It's going to take you 9 weeks to get a whole landing page that looks like, hey, I've got this whole new style going on, right? So it doesn't happen overnight, unless you archive everything, delete everything that came before that. But yeah, like, think about it, sort of plan ahead, and it'll take you some time to get there. Yeah. And stick to it, most importantly. Don't change in week 3, because then you're not going to get that nine tile look. You're just going to have like 3 weeks of very different looking things. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You've had quite a marathon over here from your presentation in the beginning, and then talking to all my students. I definitely owe you ramen, because for all of you who don't realize this, Ming here has donated her time to help us all here. So we're very grateful for all this.
And I'm happy to be here. I enjoyed this very much.
Thank you so much for your help. Christine, any last comments before we close? All good. So thank you once again from all of us at Sunway University. We would look forward to having you come watch some of us play whenever we get a chance to make music live again over here at the university. Thanks so much for your help. It's been a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And I'll be watching those Facebook pages that are supposed to carry on. No pressure, guys.
Absolutely. And of course, keep an eye out for Grace's Hidden Humor and Timmy's Imaginary Orchestra. It's really interesting.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take care and have a great week. Can everybody just say thank you? Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.